Hello, Loup Power District employees, retirees, family and friends, and welcome to this month's edition of Canal Chronicles. You know, a lot of what goes on in our daily lives here at Loup Power District revolve around obeying various regulations and rules that we have to apply to from both a local level, a statewide level, and a federal level. There are a lot of rules and regulations that are applied to our industry and specifically some of the facilities that the district owns that we must regulate and operate on a basis that meets the requirements of various licenses or various rules that that the local, state, and federal officials have set forth for us. It's always interesting dealing with these rules, and sometimes people say, well, why do you have to do things this way? Why can't you do things in another way? And I often tell them, it's really because of the rules and regulations that we must follow and must obey as part of the laws that govern our operation. I'll talk more about all of this a little bit later on in Canal Chronicles, but I wanted to kind of set the framework for how the district operates on a regular basis. So one of the rules that we have to obey by is the Public Utility Regulatory Policy Act. It was enabled in the mid-1970s and deals with utilities of certain sizes, and there's been various rules over the various years regarding the Purpa, is what it's called, Act, and how we must obey to provide energy efficiency and updated standards to better utilize the facilities that we have in place. As part of the Investment and Infrastructure Jobs Act, or IIJA, of 2021, two new standards were proposed under Purpa, one dealing with demand response practices and another dealing with electric vehicle charging stations and programs. Today at the board meeting, the board held a hearing on both of these two new standards and listened and reviewed policies and procedures that the district's management put together. Really, they came from Nebraska Public Power District and their management staff, and we reviewed those with our board to help start developing standards. In October, district management will provide two resolutions to the board of directors to basically implement these standards as to what we will do in the future. Right now we're looking at modified standards, not the exact standards set forth by Purpa, but a modification of those standards to continue observing what's going on with other utilities and possibly implementing other standards later on. I'll talk more about that next month after we develop the resolutions and after the board approves those resolutions. But those are some of the things that we as a utility must do on a regular basis. At today's board meeting, the board of directors reviewed the 2023 Load and Capability Report that was published by the Nebraska Power Association. The district is a member of NPA, and our Vice President of Engineering, Corey Hubza, sits on the NPA Joint Planning Subcommittee that puts the Load and Capability Report together. This Load and Capability Report is required by state statute and is delivered to the Power Review Board so that they can see that the electric utilities in the state of Nebraska are meeting our needs in the Southwest Power Pool. A lot of changes have occurred in the report for 2023, including significantly increased demand requirements for the utilities as a result of new large loads coming into the utility service territories, as well as the Southwest Power Pool increasing reserve requirements to 15% from 12% last year. All of these changes show that there's a much greater need for new generation resources very quickly in the Nebraska area, and specifically for Nebraska Public Power District. And the utilities in Nebraska are trying to determine how best to serve that need, either through energy efficiency, new resources, what type of resources, and demand response practices. It's all a very complicated situation, and trying to mesh them all together makes for a very delicate process, especially as it takes several years to develop new generation resources. Serving these new large loads is also complicated, as a lot of new transformers and other utility infrastructure needs to get built to service those entities, and that doesn't happen overnight. That takes several years also. So trying to balance these all out is very complicated, and then showing that to our state regulators makes for a complicated process. It's my understanding that when the Nebraska Power Association Joint Planning Subcommittee presented this to the Power Review Board, there were a lot of questions regarding how quickly generation could come online and what happened if the generation didn't come online. A lot of detail went on to that, and if you want more information, I would ask you to go to the Nebraska Power Association website at nepower.org. Speaking of generation, the district board and management had a long discussion regarding district water issues at today's board meeting. The district continues to work on a draft non-capacity license amendment to file with the Federal Energy Regulatory Commission, and after an initial review by FERC staff, the district is working on a couple of additional studies to submit with the non-capacity license amendment. These studies regard water quality certification and an additional exhibit regarding the effects of the proposed operational changes on threatened and endangered species in both the Loup River and the Lower Platte River. We expect to have these studies done sometime this year and to file the studies with FERC probably sometime in late December or early January of next year, and then work toward finalizing the non-capacity license amendment. It's been a long process, and we've been talking with FERC and our attorneys regarding getting this filed and settled, and hopefully sometime by the middle part of next year, we'll have a little bit better idea of where we sit in the process. In addition, we've been working with Congressman Flood's office and others to talk to FEMA and NEMA regarding payments from the 2019 mid-March storm event. We're still approximately $5 million behind on getting payments from FEMA and NEMA, and we basically contacted Congressman Flood's office to help us see if there is a way to speed the process up about getting the payments. Of course, part of the difficulty with that today is the fact that FEMA, if you've been reading the papers, has basically run out of money and is waiting for Congress to reestablish a fund for them so that they can make payments to those that were in need and who have had damages as a result of storms throughout the United States. It's been a long process for all of our individuals who've been working on this, and we're hopeful that Congressman Flood's office can help break through some of the red tape that goes with getting funds from NEMA and FEMA. So stay tuned for more information on that in the near future. One additional item that was discussed at the board meeting today was regarding our wholesale power contract with Nebraska Public Power District. NPPD's management has reached out to district management regarding possible extensions of the wholesale power contract and what the district might want in a new wholesale power contract. So at today's board meeting, district management started talking with the board of directors about what they would like to see in a new contract. A lot of ideas were thrown forth, and we will be talking with NPPD in the near future about those ideas. And so we will bring more information to you as the wholesale power contracts negotiations move forward. It was interesting to hear the district's board take on what they looked forward to and what they thought. Sometimes it's a very complicated subject, and they look to for management for ideas. But in this case, the board came up with some really good ideas that we will be taking to NPPD in the future regarding our wholesale power contract. As I mentioned during many of the past Canal Chronicles, safety is a very important part of what we do here at Loup Power District. And safety not only starts with us, it also starts with you. Right now, it's the middle of the harvest season here in Nebraska, and we're starting to see a lot of farmers with their equipment, very slow-moving equipment, out on the roads. Obviously, farmers having to deal with power lines and other equipment that they deal with. And so I ask all of you to be careful and be safe out there. If you're out there driving, know that there's going to be slow equipment out there, and make sure you understand your surroundings. The same with those who are farming, make sure if you've got equipment that's up in the air that you know where the power lines are at, so you don't come into contact with power lines or have any issues that way. We really want everybody to be safe and to go home at night to your families, as that's a very important part of what everybody should be thinking of on a regular basis. I say this because I really do, obviously with this, I've been out on the roads and I've seen it in a personal manner, that you come upon some slow moving equipment and you think you can go around it real fast, and the next thing you know, you're right on top of somebody else, and it can be a real challenge. So again, take your time, make sure you understand your surroundings, and really be careful with everything that's going on out there. And so with that, and as always, stay safe and be happy.